Beloved child, stop scrolling for just a little while. There is a quiet reason your eyes have found these words tonight, and before sleep carries you into another dream, I ask you to remain here with an open heart. Not because fear is waiting for you, but because hope has been searching for you more faithfully than you realize. There is a story unfolding beyond what your natural eyes can see, and every passing moment has been gently leading you toward it. What you are about to hear is a fictional spiritual story created to encourage your heart, yet perhaps its message will awaken something beautiful within you. Do not hurry away. Sometimes the greatest answers arrive when a soul finally becomes still enough to listen. You have wondered why certain memories refuse to disappear. You have questioned why one person's presence seems to echo through ordinary days, appearing in unexpected thoughts, familiar songs, quiet evenings, and moments when the world suddenly grows silent. You have tried to explain it away with logic. You have told yourself that time should have erased every unanswered feeling. Yet something remains, not demanding your attention with noise, but waiting with remarkable patience. Tonight, Heaven's story begins where your questions have always lived. Long before you believed this evening was ordinary, unseen pages had already begun turning. While people rushed through crowded streets, while lights flickered on in distant homes, while conversation started and ended without meaning, another story quietly continued. It was not a story driven by perfect timing or flawless decisions. It was shaped by moments of hesitation, unexpected detours, quiet prayers, and hearts learning lessons they never expected to face. Every chapter carried hidden purpose, even when the characters believed they were completely lost. There is someone in this story who often looked toward the evening sky without understanding why. They smiled when others expected them to smile, worked when responsibilities demanded it, and continued living outwardly normal days. Yet every sunset awakened a familiar feeling that words could never fully describe. It was as though their heart remembered someone before their mind allowed itself to admit it. They never spoke openly about that feeling because they feared people would misunderstand. They chose silence instead of vulnerability. They carried hope quietly, almost invisibly, believing perhaps it was safer that way. Meanwhile, another soul walked through different roads entirely. Their life appeared full to everyone around them, yet inside they carried questions no one knew existed. They often laughed in crowded rooms while feeling strangely distant from everyone nearby. They celebrated achievements that somehow felt incomplete. They collected memories that still left empty spaces. Whenever night arrived, they found themselves staring into darkness longer than necessary, wondering why peace seemed so close but never fully within reach. Neither of them realized they were walking through parallel chapters of the same unfolding story. Listen carefully now, because this is where many people stop paying attention. They expect dramatic miracles to arrive with thunder, brilliant lights, or overwhelming signs. But heaven often whispers before it ever shouts. It plants gentle reminders before revealing extraordinary moments. It prepares hearts before opening new doors. The greatest transformations rarely begin with noise. They begin with quiet invitations that only attentive hearts recognize. There came an evening much like this one. Nothing appeared unusual. The wind moved gently through trees. The stars watched silently above. Ordinary routines unfolded exactly as expected. Yet beneath everything visible, something changed forever. One prayer that had remained unspoken for months finally reached heaven, not because the words were loud, but because the heart behind them had become completely sincere. The archangel in this fictional story looked upon that quiet prayer, not with judgment, but with compassion deeper than oceans. There was no impatience, no disappointment, only understanding. Every tear that had been hidden from others was already known. Every disappointment carried in silence had already been seen. Every hope that seemed forgotten still rested safely within heaven's remembrance. The archangel did not immediately reveal the ending. Instead, something far more meaningful began. Small circumstances shifted almost invisibly. A delayed conversation happened at exactly the right time. An unexpected memory surfaced during an ordinary afternoon. A familiar name appeared where no one expected it. None of these moments looked miraculous individually. Yet together they quietly formed a path that neither heart could yet recognize. This is how divine stories often unfold. Not through impossible shortcuts. Through meaningful connections. The first soul noticed unusual peace appearing during moments that once produced anxiety. They could not explain why. Problems had not disappeared. Circumstances had not dramatically improved. Yet somewhere deep inside, fear began losing its grip. It was as though an unseen hand gently whispered, "Keep walking. You are closer than you know." The second soul experienced something equally mysterious. Old regrets suddenly felt different. Instead of chains, they became lessons. Instead of shame, they became preparation. Instead of endings, they became foundations for a future still hidden beyond the horizon. Neither understood why this transformation had begun. Neither knew another heart was changing at the same time. Have you ever noticed how some nights feel unusually significant? You cannot explain it logically. Nothing spectacular happens outwardly, yet your spirit quietly senses that something meaningful has shifted. Those moments are easily ignored by distracted minds, but attentive hearts recognize them as invitations. This story reaches one of those sacred evenings now. The archangel stood within the unseen places where hope refuses to die. Around them were countless prayers spoken by countless people across generations. Some prayers were filled with joy. Others carried heartbreak. Some asked for strength. Others simply whispered, "Please do not let me lose hope." Among them rested one prayer unlike the others. It had never asked for perfection. It had never demanded certainty. It simply asked, "If this beautiful connection still has purpose, guide us both toward the truth when our hearts are ready." Heaven treasures prayers like these. Not because they attempt to control outcomes. Because they choose trust over fear. Days passed. Weeks quietly followed. Neither soul realized they were slowly becoming the people they once prayed to become. One learned forgiveness. The other discovered courage. One released old bitterness. The other embraced quiet humility. Each invisible victory prepared them for a conversation that could not have happened earlier. Had it arrived before, pride would have spoken louder than love. Fear would have interrupted honesty. Assumptions would have buried understanding. Timing matters more than impatient hearts often realize. And still, heaven continued writing. Tonight, before sleep reaches you, imagine a single candle glowing inside a vast cathedral. Alone, it seems small. Yet its light refuses to surrender to surrounding darkness. Another candle begins burning farther away. Then another. Eventually the entire room becomes illuminated, not because one flame tried to become brighter than every other, but because each remained faithful to its own purpose. Hope behaves exactly like that. One quiet act of faith awakens another. One gentle choice encourages another. One sincere prayer strengthens another. Soon what once appeared impossible becomes beautifully visible. The first soul finally admitted something they had hidden from themselves. I never truly stopped caring. Those words were never spoken aloud. They remained locked within the heart. Yet heaven heard them instantly. The second soul, unaware of that silent confession, found themselves opening an old notebook. Between forgotten pages rested words written months earlier. Reading them again felt entirely different now. Instead of pain, they discovered unexpected gratitude. Instead of longing alone, they recognized growth. They closed the notebook slowly, whispering with quiet sincerity, "Maybe this story isn't over after all." At that exact moment, something extraordinary happened beyond what either could see. The archangel smiled. Not because every answer had arrived. Because both hearts had finally become ready to receive them. There is profound beauty in readiness. People often ask heaven for immediate answers while resisting the transformation those answers require. But genuine blessings do more than change circumstances. They reshape hearts so that lasting peace becomes possible. Temporary excitement fades quickly. Lasting wisdom remains. The story continued. Unexpectedly. Neither soul reached for dramatic gestures. Instead, they found themselves becoming more compassionate toward strangers, more patient with family, more thankful for ordinary blessings. Without realizing it, love was already expanding inside them before it ever reunited them with another person. This is one of heaven's quiet mysteries. The journey often becomes part of the gift. The waiting often protects what rushing would have destroyed. The silence often prepares conversations that noise could never create. Still, one unanswered question remained suspended between heaven and earth. Would they recognize each other when the appointed moment finally arrived? Recognition is deeper than appearance. It is deeper than memory. It is deeper than emotion. True recognition happens when peace quietly whispers, "You have arrived exactly where you were meant to be." Yet another challenge approached. Not from darkness. From doubt. Because doubt often arrives moments before clarity. One evening, just when hope appeared strongest, unexpected circumstances threatened everything both souls had slowly begun believing again. A misunderstanding unfolded where neither intended harm. A message remained unread longer than expected. A coincidence appeared almost convincing enough to make both believe they had misunderstood every quiet sign they had sensed. Old fears immediately awakened. What if I imagined everything? What if hope was only wishful thinking? What if I should simply walk away? The questions multiplied faster than peace could answer them. And for the first time in many months, silence returned. Not peaceful silence. Uncertain silence. The kind that makes every passing hour feel longer than the last. From heaven's perspective, however, nothing had fallen apart. The story remained exactly where it needed to be. Because sometimes the final test before breakthrough is whether hope survives one last unanswered night. The archangel looked toward the unfolding path and spoke softly into the unseen places of both hearts. Do not confuse delay with denial. Neither heard those words with physical ears. Yet something within them refused to surrender completely. A quiet strength remained. Small. Fragile. But alive. And then, just as midnight approached, just as both hearts stood on the edge of making decisions that could change everything, someone reached for something they had not touched in a very long time. The moment their fingers closed around it, they discovered a hidden truth that neither of them expected to find. And that single discovery was about to change the entire story forever. A quiet stillness settled over the night as though even the wind had paused to witness what was about to unfold. Neither soul realized that the next few moments would become the invisible bridge between everything they had left behind and everything still waiting ahead. The object resting in trembling hands was not valuable because of what it was made of. Its value came from what it carried. Time had protected it. Silence had guarded it. Heaven, in this fictional story, had allowed it to remain hidden until both hearts were ready to understand its meaning. The first soul slowly unfolded the faded pages. The handwriting was familiar, yet the emotions behind every sentence felt completely different now. Months earlier those words had sounded like unfinished dreams. Tonight they sounded like quiet promises that had survived every season of doubt. A gentle smile appeared through tears that no one else could see. There was no anger left. No desire to prove anything. Only gratitude that hope had never completely disappeared. Far away, beneath another evening sky, the second soul experienced an unexpected stirring within the heart. There was no obvious reason for it. Nothing dramatic happened around them. Yet an unexplainable peace gently interrupted every anxious thought. It felt as though someone unseen whispered, "Do not give up just because the road became longer than you expected." The fictional archangel watched with calm compassion. Heaven never rushed this story because rushed hearts often overlook the miracles prepared for them. Every delay had quietly shaped humility. Every unanswered question had quietly planted wisdom. Every lonely evening had slowly become preparation instead of punishment. Many people believe love is proven only through grand moments. Yet heaven often reveals something much deeper. Genuine love quietly changes the person you become long before it changes the circumstances around you. It teaches patience where frustration once lived. It replaces fear with quiet courage. It transforms waiting into growth. The first soul continued reading until one sentence seemed to shine brighter than every other word on the page. If we are ever meant to meet again, I hope we both become the kind of people who choose kindness before pride." Those words had been written long ago, but tonight they felt alive. A single tear slipped down the page. Not because of sadness. Because healing had finally arrived. At that very moment, the second soul looked toward the night sky and quietly whispered, "If another chapter still exists, let it begin with honesty." Neither knew they had spoken from the same place within their hearts. Heaven heard both. The fictional archangel smiled once more. Not because every answer had already appeared, but because the greatest miracle had already begun inside them. Two hearts that once carried confusion had learned peace before reunion. That is a foundation no storm can easily shake. Yet another chapter waited. A small series of unexpected events quietly unfolded over the following days. An old photograph appeared while cleaning a forgotten drawer. A familiar melody unexpectedly played in a quiet cafe. A meaningful conversation between strangers reminded one soul of a lesson they thought they had forgotten. None of these moments forced a conclusion. Instead, they gently invited reflection. Each sign became another thread weaving together a story that neither could yet fully see. One afternoon the first soul found themselves smiling for reasons they could not explain. For the first time in many months, they stopped asking, "Why did everything happen this way?" Instead they asked, what beautiful purpose was quietly growing through all of it? That single question changed everything. Questions born from fear seek escape. Questions born from faith seek understanding. Heaven always responds differently to each. Meanwhile, the second soul received an unexpected invitation from an old friend. At first it seemed completely ordinary. Nothing about it suggested destiny. Nothing about it seemed extraordinary. Still, something inside quietly encouraged them not to decline. They almost ignored that feeling. Responsibilities seemed more important. Fatigue suggested staying home. Logic insisted another opportunity would eventually come. Yet peace gently whispered again. Take one more step. Sometimes the smallest decisions become the doorway to the biggest chapters. The fictional archangel knew exactly where that simple invitation would eventually lead, but heaven allowed the story to unfold naturally. Miracles are rarely appreciated when every detail is revealed too early. Days continued passing. Both souls became more thankful, more peaceful, more willing to trust. The emptiness that once defined them slowly disappeared, replaced by quiet expectation. They still did not know when the next chapter would arrive. But they no longer feared waiting. Then came one remarkable evening. The sky glowed with warm colors as though creation itself paused between daylight and darkness. Birds settled into silence. Gentle breezes carried the comforting scent of approaching rain. Everything appeared ordinary. Yet heaven recognized this evening differently. The archangel softly declared, "The season of preparation is reaching its final pages." Neither soul heard those words directly. Instead, both experienced an unusual calm. The kind that appears before important conversations. The kind that arrives before long-awaited answers. The kind that reminds the heart not to run away when something beautiful finally approaches. The first soul unexpectedly received a message. It was brief, simple, respectful. There were no dramatic declarations. No impossible promises. Only sincere words carrying quiet honesty. For several long moments, they simply looked at the message without replying. Old fears tried to return. Old questions knocked once again. What if nothing has really changed? What if this leads to another disappointment? Before those fears could grow stronger, peace gently reminded them of everything heaven had already transformed inside their heart. Growth had happened. Healing had happened. Forgiveness had happened. Perhaps, just perhaps, this next step was no longer about repeating the past. Perhaps it was about beginning something entirely new. The fictional archangel looked toward both paths, knowing that one final truth still remained hidden. There was something neither soul had discovered. Something that explained every unexpected delay. Something that revealed why their journeys had unfolded with such remarkable precision. And as the first soul slowly lifted a trembling hand to answer that message, a truth hidden since the very beginning was finally preparing to come into the light. But that revelation would have to wait. Because the next words spoken between these two hearts would change the direction of the entire story forever.